Okay, hi everybody. I kind of want to introduce myself and go through the syllabus so that we don't have to do that together on Thursday, and also to give like a really brief introduction to some of the composition skills and rhetoric skills that we're going to be working with. So, first off, I'm Caitlin. You can call me Caitlin. Um, I'm just going to go through the syllabus little by little. So I'll share the screen. You can look at it. You have your own syllabus that I sent to you, so you can follow along that way. And of course, when this is over, you can email me with any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer them. I'm sure that I will skip things that are important to you, and so absolutely feel free. Okay, so let's see if I can bring this guy up. Okay, so here we go. Here's the syllabus. Make that bigger for you. Okay, so this is composition 102. I think that means you had to have taken 101, but we'll see. We meet Tuesday, Thursday, 12:30 to 1:50. Let's see. There's my name again. I have Zoom or I'll likely be doing Teams depending on when I get everything set up. It's a little bit behind. But I'll have office hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to 11 and by appointment. So I'll just have it kind of open and you can hop in anytime you want to ask me questions about papers, to talk about things that we read, talk about things we discussed in class. Complain about your roommate. I don't know, whatever you want. I'll just be sitting there on the computer kind of waiting for you guys to hop in and communicate with me. I realize that you might have a class Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to 11. So I'm available by appointment as well. You can just let me know that you can't meet for those times, and we'll set aside a time for us to meet. I will go out of my way to accommodate. Um, I'm pretty busy on Tuesday, Thursdays. I'm teaching 3 classes each day, so it would be better if Monday, Wednesday, Friday worked for you. But if it's not possible, then we'll figure something else out. Okay, so I really designed this course with the prison industrial complex in mind. I think obviously what's going on in the world is bringing a lot to the forefront about police officers and cops and uh, and protests and things of that nature. But I'm also really interested in thinking about the prison system, particularly in relation to what's going on. So I found this great text by Angela Davis. She wrote "Our Prisons Obsolete," and she actually wrote it just after September 11th. And it's still extremely relevant, and it's also fairly easy to read. It's about 120 pages, which we're going to spread out over a week or so. It's very approachable, and for me it was very enlightening, and I kind of study that, so it was still enlightening. So I think that's going to be really the core of what we study in this class. That's going to be the thing that we really look at. But before we get there, we'll be talking about how to just write a compare and contrast paper, how to analyze rhetoric, how to look at advertisements and things like that, and see in depth what we kind of come up with in that regard. And then we'll transition into actually looking at this text and doing some work with it. You'll have a good amount of freedom for the second half of this semester. The first part, it's a little bit more strict in terms of limitations. Anyway, Our Prison's Obsolete is available online. I have a PDF to it. I will probably send to you, but you can also find it online. There's no need for you to buy the book unless you want to. Entirely up to you. I didn't even put it in the library because I assumed nobody would want to, but by all means, go for it. You'll need the SUBR composition handbook, which hopefully you maybe already have from taking 101, but if you don't, it's provided online, I think for a small fee. You'll have access to it. And then you probably also already have a pocket style manual, which we will occasionally look into. And I will provide additional readings on Moodle, or if I don't have Moodle set up in time, then I will just send them out in emails. Okay, so the hybrid details. So here's the situation. It's basically, we're not going to meet in person. I don't think it's safe to quite yet. I would really like to. If things work out halfway through the semester and things change, then we will do that. So, but what hybrid means in this case is that you guys are scheduled for a course that starts at 12:30 and ends at 1:50. You're responsible for being available at those times on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we're going to meet together in Microsoft Teams, and we will have discussions. We will talk about writing. We'll talk about text. We will do whatever we need to do in order to clarify things, or to make you better writers, or to just discuss questions that we had about text, anything that really comes up during those times. I'm going to do very little talking during those discussions. It's going to be for all of us to talk things through. It's lectures like this that I'm recording that I will send out before each class that you'll be responsible for watching, that will kind of give you the context or give you the details that you need prior to doing the reading, or that will just kind of help you continue with the writing process. But I don't want to be talking on Microsoft Teams with all of you just like listening quietly. Teams is for us to actually discuss things. So that's probably how this is going to go. At times, I will break up the class. So there's 20 of you. I will break you up into groups of 10 so that we can have shorter, more focused discussions in like 40 minutes. We'll split it up. So one group will have 40 minutes, and then the second group will have the next 40 minutes. And that way we're not really talking over each other. We'll have more focused interactions. I think it'll be more productive. And I'll always switch those groups around so that we don't just get stuck with the same 10 people. You'll get to know all of your classmates. You'll get to talk with everyone. I think that will be more productive in the long run. So as I said, you'll need to watch lectures before each class. And occasionally I will assign you a very quick, I call them quick writes, which is basically just a quick response to a question or a quote or something along those lines, where I will probably ask you for your emotional response or your opinion on something, and I don't want you to write for more than 5 to 10 minutes. This would be something like if we were in an actual classroom, you would sit down in the beginning of class and you would write for 5 minutes straight about this topic that I presented, and then we would use that as a jumping off point to kind of start a conversation. Instead, you'll do it ahead of time, and I'll read them ahead of time, and that way I can kind of determine what kind of questions I should ask in the discussion based on what you guys are interested in. We'll talk about that when we're more interactive in an actual team setting. During team meetings, I would super love it if you would actually show your faces so that we can actually get to know each other. Plus, when I'm talking into a computer screen and I can't see any of your faces, I feel like a crazy person. And it's very alienating. And then I also can't tell if you're like dying of boredom. Usually if you are dying of boredom, I can see it on your faces, and I will try to switch gears and talk about something that's more interesting. But if I can't see you, then I might just drone on. So I would love if you guys would make a point to actually show your faces. I can't force you, but I would really love that. I think it will bring another level of kind of comfort and dialogue to this class. If you don't have a computer or the internet, you can always call in from your phone. We won't see your face, but you'll be a part of the conversation. If you can't call in with your phone, please just let me know as far in advance as you can, meaning like this week, so that we can figure an alternative out. There are probably ways to work around this. I'm fully aware that this is not an ideal situation. And I'm also very open to suggestions or changes or things that have worked well for you in the past. I'm very open to trying something different. So if something's going on in this class that you think is just not working for you, you're not learning at the pace that you would like to be learning, then make a suggestion to me through email, and I will do my best to incorporate it into the class. I'm very open about these things, and I want you guys to learn as much as possible. So in the catalog, it describes this class, which is freshman composition 2, just as an emphasis on writing as a learning and thinking process, discussion of and practice and strategies used in pre-writing, writing, and revising, expressive, informative, analytical, and argumentative essays. Research methodology and the WPE are also included. We will talk about the WPE a lot, especially as I work through the schedule with you. And I would say that we're mostly going to focus on the analytical and the argumentative. Informative will kind of be a part of the argumentative. Expressive, we'll see how much that gets included. I'm really most interested in us having a really good understanding of the prison industrial complex and the rhetoric that Angela Davis uses in that text. being able to write our own research papers about things that are going on in regards to the prison system. And then I think you're all probably most stressed out about the writing for proficiency exam. So as you look at the schedule, you'll see that we have dedicated days on Microsoft Teams to just talk about that and to kind of work through methods for doing really well on that. I'm not worried about it. I think we're going to have plenty of prep time to talk about it, and that the things that we do in regard to what we're reading and studying will inform and help you in that department. I promise we'll work it out. And if we're not, and you guys are overwhelmed and stressing as we go through, then I'll switch gears and we'll work on that. I want you to succeed. That's important to me. So we'll make adjustments as we go along if we need to. Okay. This is an advanced freshman level course that will teach students to write multi-paragraph essays. You know this. Okay, so the section aims, so this is the part that I wrote. To equip students with the analytical skills to identify and examine the arguments that saturate our daily lives. That's going to be kind of the first part. We view the world rhetorically. We'll see arguments everywhere. It aims to primarily foster critical thinking, reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills. For this specific section of composition, an application of these skills will be focused on the prison industrial complex. You'll have an opportunity to critique texts and eventually compose your own arguments with research regarding the U.S. prison system. None of this is going to be possible if we merely take what we know or learn for granted. I always want to move away from assumptions, misunderstandings. I want us to be open-minded and engage with each other about our different perspectives, and we're going to have them. We're all from different places. We all grew up in different worlds, and we all have different relationships to this concept. And so we're going to talk about all of these things. And I really implore you to have an open mind and to be ready to share your own opinion and to also kind of internalize other people's opinions as well. By interrogating the persuasive strategies of Angela Davis's Are Prisons Obsolete and supplemental readings concerning various aspects of the prison industrial complex, we will not only learn to recognize rhetorical moves and fallacies, but also learn to implement effective methodologies in our own research and critical arguments. We're going to write and speak to each other with attention to our rhetoric every day in this class. We're going to be very mindful of our language and the way that we approach things, and we're going to learn how to articulate more effectively, both in writing and in speaking. Okay. I encourage you completely to question everything we read and to question me. You should definitely challenge me whenever you want and whenever you feel the need to. Again, we're all making different assumptions, and sometimes we're not even aware of our assumptions. So this is an opportunity for all of us to learn and to question each other. Here are some department student learning outcomes that you'll be able to demonstrate an understanding of each mode of writing, classification and division, compare and contrast, cause and effect, argumentation, and research. We're going to do less of classification and division and cause and effect and more of the other ones, but I will definitely teach you how to write those just in case you want to know or you think it might be on the WPE. We will talk about them. I want you to be able to demonstrate the ability to write essays by supporting the thesis statement with well-developed body paragraphs consisting of examples, facts, reasons, incidents, and specific details. In other words, evidence. You'll have competence in grammar, and you'll be able to demonstrate the ability to do research by writing a documented essay. That's going to be less so, and I will give you a lot of different texts that you can look at. Basically, the amount of research you do is going to be up to you. I'll probably require that you have one or two sources, but if you get lost in this and you're really interested, then I'm just going to let you go. Like, by all means, go for it. And you'll have to follow MLA. And then my more specific goals is that you learn how to critically read text of various modes. So we're going to look at advertisements. We're going to watch a documentary. We're going to read books. We're going to do a number of different things, and so I want you guys to see all the different ways that you can analyze something and all the different ways that you can make an argument. You're going to employ the tools of rhetorical analysis. That might sound scary. It's not. I promise I will teach you, and that it's actually going to help you in a lot of your other papers. You'll write in academic prose, obviously. You'll demonstrate awareness of the writing process, so we'll brainstorm together, write outlines together, do peer editing if I can figure out a way to do that virtually. I'm going to have to. We're going to do it, I promise. And then also you'll research effectively. Policies. So basically all of your questions will be answered by the syllabus. I won't stray from its organization unless we as a class decide that we want to move in a different direction. Please review the syllabus before you send me an email asking me a question. Chances are it's already answered. Um, Email is absolutely the best way to reach me at any given time. I will respond to pretty much everything you ask within 24 hours, usually a lot sooner than that. Please try to email me with your student email addresses, but if you don't want to or you can't, then, and you have a weird email address that won't identify your name, then please introduce yourself in the beginning of the letter so I know who I'm dealing with. I have several classes. I just want to make sure that I get it right. Please do not email me to ask what you may have missed if you are absent. I'm happy to talk to you about what you missed in office hours. Like, I love to have a conversation with you. You can also reach out to someone else in the class to see what you missed. But when you ask me over email, I feel like I have to type out my entire lesson plan again, and I don't want to do that. So if you can ask me in any other way, I would really appreciate it. It's also your responsibility to check the notes and check in with the classmate. I will always post PowerPoints, and if we take notes together as a class, I will post those as well. Begin your emails with an appropriate greeting. Be grammatically correct when you can. Be polite. Sign off with a courteous closing. Mainly because this should be practice for your other professors, not just me, but everyone else. Check your email daily. I send assignment updates on a regular basis. A lot of the times I will cancel them, so you'll miss out. If you don't check your email, you'll end up doing a project or some sort of assignment that you didn't actually need to do. So make sure you check, okay? And in that case, also, I don't really, I'm never going to add unless we agree together that we need to do something. But I will take away. I won't ever move a due date up, but I will push back the due date if we think that it's necessary. Just saying, just keep that in mind. Anyway, check your emails. This is a discussion-based class, so that means we need to respect each other. It's especially difficult in a virtual conversation when people are talking to other people in the room or you're having a side conversation. I want this to be a space where everyone listens to one another and we actually take in what other people are saying and what their opinions are. And so I want us to be quiet and open-minded, and then also to speak when we have an opinion and when we have something to say. Then the conversations can turn out to be kind of fun, productive, lively. I want you guys to talk and to communicate, but I want you to be polite also. There's no substitute for attending class. This is discussion-based again, so nothing's going to compensate for you having missed a class. If you show up and you're here and you're listening and you're engaging in these conversations, the chances of you getting an A or a B are fairly high. So just keep that in mind. If you anticipate a lengthy absence due to a serious illness, which is, we're in COVID, so if that's something that you anticipate happening, someone in your family gets sick, something like that happens, just let me know right away. Even if it turns out that it's nothing and it's just allergies or something, and it's like, we're so grateful, awesome. But let me know ahead of time so that just in case something happens with you or with a family member or a roommate or a friend or whatever, then we know that that might happen and we can adjust and anticipate it and make up for it and kind of have a plan in case it does happen. If there's even a chance that something's going to happen, do not be a hero. Just tell me right away. Even if it turns out to be nothing, great. Just let me know, okay? With advanced knowledge, we can work out a plan. If you tell me after, 3 weeks of being absent, oh, well, this was what happened, it's kind of too late. So just tell me ahead of time or as soon as you possibly can. You're allowed 3 unexcused absences. That means you can do whatever you want for 3 classes. You can go out with your friends for lunch. You can sleep super late if that's your thing. I won't ask for an excuse. You don't need to give me one. You get 3 of those without consequences whatsoever. After those 3, though, it's going to start taking points off of your grade, okay? Those are just unexcused. Excused absences require documentation. You have to inform me prior to the absence or within 2 days of the absence. And some of those reasons are university sanctioned events, physical ailments, military obligations, court imposed obligations. There's a variety of other excused absences that I will consider on a case-by-case basis. But if you can, make sure it's verifiable, make sure that you have documentation. Online courses can be very difficult in the sense that it feels like you have a lot of time. like you can just watch that later kind of a situation. This is going to require that you really stay on top of your stuff, okay? This is going to require you to be organized, to know when classes are coming up, when you need to watch lectures, when you need to turn in quick writes. You need to stay, like, you need to keep up with the course because it's all scaffolded. We're going to go from learning how to do kind of basic analysis to doing in-depth analysis to writing our own arguments to having a final project where you actually get to present that argument like outside of the school. So if you miss one of those steps, you're going to fall really behind and you're going to struggle the rest of the class, okay? Figure out what needs to happen for you to stay on top of this. Stay up to date. I know that that can be really difficult right now. And if you're really struggling, then you need to reach out to me so that we can help each other. I want you to succeed. That's my number one goal. So let's work together to make sure that you do succeed. So if this becomes something that's really overwhelming and you're struggling, you need to talk to me about it, okay? You need to turn your work in on time. That's just the end of the, you got to do it. You got to do it. Stay organized. You need to attend team meetings or Zoom meetings. You need to participate. Sitting quietly on Zoom is painful for all of us. So let's just kind of promise not to do that to each other. Let's have these like weird and wacky and strange conversations with people we've never met in person, in this weird world where we have to talk virtually instead of in a classroom together. Like, let's just make the most of it. We have 16, 17 weeks. We're going to meet for what, like 3 hours a week? Like, let's just make it tolerable. Let's make it the best that we can make it. I will do my best, and I hope that you guys will do your best too. And that kind of flows into participation, which is you got to participate. I want you to participate actively. Again, I want you to speak to your experiences and your opinions and help us to carry on this conversation. Always bring the text that you're working with. It's fine if it's on your computer, but we'll refer to pages, and so you want to have it near you so that when we're talking about it, you know what we're talking about. You're going to receive 2 participation grades, so one for the first half of the semester and then the second one for the second half of the semester. So if you get a grade that you don't like on that first round of participation and you want to improve, then you have a clean slate. You start over fresh the second half of the semester, and you can participate like crazy and get that grade up. If you're fine with what you get, then keep doing what you're doing, okay? It won't go down. Late work, classwork, and homework cannot be made up. Missed quick writes and reading responses cannot be made up. Late work will be docked 1 letter grade for every day late on major assignments. Basically, there's just no time for this. I'm not going to be like reading your quick writes like 2 weeks after they've already been due. It's just, you miss it, it's over. They're not worth that much. It's okay. It's the major assignments that you really need to worry about getting in on time. And I want to again point out that I'm happy to give extensions. I don't hate giving extensions. I'm not one of those people. I want to read your best work. So if your best work is going to take an extra couple days or a weekend, then that's okay. But you need to tell me ahead of time, okay? You need to let me know as soon as you can. When you realize, crap, I'm not going to be able to get this thing done by the time that this is due, that's the moment that you need to email me and be like, I'm really sorry, Caitlin, I'm not going to get this done. And I'll say, that's not a problem. Let's work out a date, and then we'll come up with a new deadline, and you'll have more time to write a better paper, okay? Don't wait until it's past due, though. So be on top of this. Ask for extensions if you need them. Plagiarism kind of goes hand in hand with this. Usually plagiarism is a result of procrastinating, of not being on top of deadlines. I would much rather you ask for an extension than to plagiarize your paper. Also, you're going to submit all of this to turnitin.com, and it's going to catch you, and it's just going to be embarrassing for both of us. So, like, let's not do that. If you are unsure if you're plagiarizing, then ask me. But for the most part, plagiarizing is an issue of scheduling. Do your best to stay on top of your schedule, and if something happens, ask me for help, okay? All assignments must be submitted to Moodle before the imposed deadline. They have to have MLA heading, title page number, proper spacing, or you'll get docked a letter grade on these assignments. I will make comments on everything that you submit to me, and I will tell you if your MLA is incorrect, and then it's up to you to change it. If you don't change it, I'm going to assume you didn't read my comments, and then my feelings will get hurt, and that will be reflected in your grade, okay? For all major assignments, and I think I got this wrong. There's actually There's 4 major assignments, not 3. So you can ignore that, cross that out. There's going to be 4 major assignments. That's going to go, it will be an image, it will be a general analysis, but then it's not going to be necessarily historical, but just argumentative. And actually, yeah, okay, we'll just stop there. But those 4 major assignments need to be completed satisfactorily for you to pass this class. So that means if you're like, oh, I'm going to get a C, I don't really want to write the last paper, that means you're going to fail the class. So you need to write all 4 of these. Even if they're not great, you have to turn them in by the end, okay? Grading, I think you guys know how grading works, but I just want to point out that earning a C is just average. That means that you fulfilled the requirements, you did an okay job, you know, you seem to have put in a little bit of effort, you structured it the way that you were meant to. It's not excellent, it's just okay. That's a C. It's not a bad grade, it's just, that's just average. To get an A in this class or on a paper, you have to really be near perfect. The grammar needs to be perfect. The analysis and the arguments need to be in-depth and impressive or interesting. It needs to be like really well done to get an A. And a B is somewhere in the middle of that, where you've clearly gone beyond average, but you haven't quite gotten close to that level of perfection. And trust me, I will work with you to push you to that next level if you're willing to put in the work. Okay. You'll see the grades are calculated in a way that I'm sure you're familiar. I will not round up your grades. So even if you end up with a 79.9999 and you email me and you're like, Caitlin, please, I'm begging you at the end of the semester, I'm not going to round up. And the reason for that is because I'm fairly generous in the initial grading of your papers. Like if you deserve a C, I'll probably give you the higher end of that C. And so at the end, if you're at a 79.999, then you deserve the C+, and that's kind of going to be the end of that story, okay? Of course, there are exceptions, but just saying, generally, I'm not going to round up. Here's your breakdown. So class participation, 15%. Paper 1, 15%. I want you guys to get off on a good start. Paper 2 and 3, that's going to be the analysis of the Angela Davis and then writing your own kind of research paper. So that's why those are a little bit more in terms of percentages. And then your last paper 4 will kind of be a creative end of the semester, you get to choose what you do kind of paper, and that's why it's only 10%. And then I'm required by the department to make the writing proficiency exam worth 20%. You'll notice that even if you fail the writing proficiency exam, if you do well on everything else, you can still pass the class. Just saying. Okay. Again, if you have questions about the writing proficiency exam, feel free to ask me. I will talk you through it as much as I possibly can. Those are the due dates. Essays basically just says you need to turn in like good work. It needs to be edited. It can't be another rough draft. Like you need to make changes between the rough draft and final draft, basically things of that nature. Everything should be MLA formatted. I'm sorry. I'm also bored, so I apologize. Group work. I'm going to try really hard to make sure that I break you guys up into groups. I'm not exactly sure how that works on Teams. I've done it in Zoom, but I haven't done it on Teams, so I'm going to have to try to work that out. I will figure it out so that you can have a little bit more freedom in those groups, especially for those of you that are a little bit more shy and don't want to share in the bigger group. I'm going to try my best. I can't promise anything, but I'm going to try. Okay, so then you have course assignments and exams. You can see I'm not going to take you through the whole schedule. It lists what we're discussing on that day and then gives you the homework for that night, which is, unless specified, due the next class. And you can see like right here, it says WPE prep and revising thesis. So we will talk about the WPE. Maybe we'll do some brainstorming exercises, talk about how to organize it. We'll do some more prep for the next class. Like these little moments where we're just talking about writing and you guys are in the midst of writing your papers, we'll have these moments and discussions where we can talk about the WPE. It's good. The rules are going to be a little bit different for this. So I'm not going to have like a whole class where you just kind of write the WPE, because you're going to need longer than an hour and a half to do it. So that's going to be something you need to practice on your own, but there will be ample opportunities for you to do so in this class. And I'll just talk you through the process and ways to think through it, and we'll look at examples and we'll break them down, and we'll kind of help each other to come up with techniques that I think will help us. You'll see this week in November, that's when the exam is. I canceled class for that whole week. The test will only be one day of that, but you can have the whole week off, and I'll have extended office hours because paper 3 is due right after. I put paper 3 due right after. Normally I would put it due right before, but I don't want you to be stressing about both. So if you would prefer to turn in your paper 3 early, and we'll talk more about this as we get into the class, but if you want to turn in paper 3 a little bit earlier than the WPE rather than wait until after, I'm totally fine with that, and you'll be ready to do so. But if you'd prefer to do it this way, that works too. I just want to explain that because it looks like paper 3 is really close to your final project, and it is, but technically it maybe could be done 2 weeks earlier than that. So just saying. We can figure that out too as we get going here. And then the rest is your ADA compliance, disability, and then also the statement of non-discrimination. So that's that for the syllabus. Of course, if you have questions, you should always ask me. I'm fully happy to answer whatever concerns you have to the best of my ability. The next thing that I quickly want to do is talk about this PowerPoint. See if I can get this playing. Okay. So before class on Thursday, if you watch this and if all possible, please email me with the following information so that I get to know you a little better, so I have a better sense of who's in the class, and also so I don't screw up your name or anything like that. So first of all, your preferred name, that can be a nickname if you want. If you think I'm going to struggle to pronounce it, please tell me how to pronounce it. I will do my best, and you can yell at me when I say it wrong in front of everyone. I embrace that. Tell me where you're from, and in that regard, I mean, I'm not from the South, so I'd love to know if you're from different areas around here. In my head, I just assume everyone's from Louisiana, but I could totally be wrong, and I would love to hear where you're from. Your pronouns, a book you absolutely hate, a book you absolutely love, your least favorite thing about quarantine, the best movie, TV show, music you listened to or watched over the summer, your biggest concern about this class, and the names and types of all the pets you have at home, because this is extremely important information and I need to know everything about your animals, okay? And to be fair, this is what I would write if I was turning this in. I go by Caitlin. You can call me Caitlin. I'm originally from Southern California. I spent a lot of time in Iowa to get my PhD. So I've lived in the West and the Midwest, and now I'm in the South. So the next step is clearly to move to the East. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I might be the only one in the world, but I hate the book The Great Gatsby. I can't stand it. I detest it. I hate it. It might be because my dad loves it so much. I don't know. I just don't like it. This summer I read The House of Spirits by Isabel Allende, and it was the first time in a long time that I was laughing out loud at a book and that I really enjoyed. So I wrote that there. I really miss being able to go to shows and concerts. I miss going to live shows. And now that I'm especially in Baton Rouge and near New Orleans, I really cannot wait for this to be over so that I can go to those live shows. I'm pretty sad about it, to be honest. I loved The Umbrella Academy on Netflix. I just watched the second season. I thought it was great. I'm concerned that because we're online, you're not going to enjoy this class nearly as much as you should, that we won't establish as good of a rapport as we could if we were face-to-face. I'm just worried that this is not going to add up to being the best class that it could be. And I really hope that we work together to make that a little bit less scary for me and for you. And I have one cat. His name is Hunter S. Thompson, and I call him Tom Tom. And I'm sure you will meet him over the span of the semester. He's a very handsome boy. Okay. Also, when you write that email, please let me know. So normally on the first day, I would have you exchange email addresses or phone numbers with one of your classmates so that you have kind of a buddy to reach out to if you miss class or you get confused or you just want to chat with someone in the class. At the end of the email that you sent me with all your information, let me know if I have permission to give your email address to a fellow classmate. It's totally okay if you don't want me to. We can work something else out so that you have a contact buddy, or you can tell me what you're comfortable with. This is just so that you have someone to reach out to. If you say yes, I'll probably just pair you with a random person in the class, and I'll send you guys your each other's email addresses, and then you can chat and exchange phone numbers if that's something you want to do. I can't legally ask you to share your phone numbers. That's the only reason I'm not. Okay, so please add that. And then for Thursday, we're going to meet all together for our first class via Teams. Unfortunately, Teams doesn't allow more than 9 people to show up on your screen at one time. It's going to be weird. It might suck. We're going to have to just deal with it. We're going to do our best. I'm going to a convocation tomorrow, and hopefully I will then have access to Moodle and email. Regardless, look for an email reminder from either this address or the more official one before class, just to kind of remind you to watch this and to ask me questions and to send your responses. And then also in prep for Thursday, we're going to talk about our past experiences with bad teachers, and we're going to discuss how we can make this class work for all of us. I love hearing horror stories. Bring them all. I want you to be brutally honest. Tell me all the horror stories. Before we get started, I want you to think about the worst class you ever took and why it was so terrible, and then also think about the best one you took and consider why it was so successful. We're going to talk about teacher-student responsibility and ways that we can make this class more effective for everyone. Okay, so just keep that in mind, okay? All right, we're almost done. I'm going to give a brief lecture on ethos, pathos, and logos, which are kind of just skills for rhetoric to help us read. I'm doing this only because I don't want to have to do this when we're all sitting there waiting. I don't want to have to talk the entire time on Thursday, so hopefully this makes it go a little bit faster. Okay. So ethos, pathos, and logos are really just the basics of rhetoric or composition. Before we talk about those three, though, there is context. There are things that kind of surround this idea of ethos, pathos, logos. So, for example, there's decorum, kairos, history, and these things can be confusing and you won't be tested on them ever. And they overlap sometimes, but it's just an indication that you need to really pay attention to what's going on around a text. So like if you see an advertisement, when did it come out? What was going on in history around that time? If you see a commercial, what was going on during that time? Where was it going on? Where was it released? When was this book going on? Like, I don't know, for example, like if we read Angela Davis, like why is it so significant that this was right after September 11th? So that's part of the context that goes into this. What's going on outside of the text that contributes to the way that we're going to read it, okay? So decorum is just really that which is proper to the circumstances or requirements of the case. Like, I think you know this, like when somebody was like, you need to have better decorum, they're just telling you to be more polite. So it's like this appropriate level of professionalism, right? So for example, like what tone or emotion would you use to convince a jury that your client is innocent? Like you might take on a different tone based on who it is and what's going on and what side you're on, right? Or to force a rude bartender to give you a drink. Would you be polite or would you be rude? Right back to them. Kind of professionalism or tone would you take? How should you act around your boyfriend or girlfriend's parents, right? So you would definitely not be the person you are around them that you are around your friends. So that changes the way that we might read you and understand you. What kind of tone should you use in an email to a professor or to a distant friend or to a best friend or in a text message, right? All these things change the way that you write, the way that you approach things. And an example of bad decorum, go on YouTube and look up bad wedding speeches. These are people that cannot figure out how to be polite and how to be appropriate in these moments, okay? Kairos, this is the most confusing, even for me, but it's this idea of supreme timing. So like reading the situation, understanding what is an appropriate time and kind of putting it out there at this exact moment. So I'm trying to think of an example. So like, I don't know, after like a school shooting, the NRA will immediately put out something about needing guns to protect us, something like that. That's supreme timing, right? Like it's important that it comes out right now when everybody's at the peak of their fear and sadness, right? So that's kind of a vague example of Kairos. Or like When is the perfect time to ask your parents for a new car? Like, is it right after one of your parents walks in from work and is pissy? Like, probably not. So the timing is not right. You need to wait in order to kind of present that argument. When would be the best time to write an article about animal testing? Like, probably not after one of those like ASPCA commercials, right? Like, that would not be good timing. So timing is important, right? And that's somehow a little bit different than the historical timing. So, for example, what is happening historically around an event or argument that helps us to understand the purpose? So, when I originally wrote this slide, it was way before what has been going on in terms of Black Lives Matter. It was when it just started. And what I was really going for here historically was that suddenly everyone had a cell phone, everyone had a camera. And so, historically speaking, a lot of the police brutality has been going on for a long time, but suddenly we have technology that can record it. So there's something different about Black Lives Matter because the timing of it coming to fruition might be due to some technology. Of course, there's other things that play into it, but that's just one aspect of it, right? What's happening historically around the Olympics, right? Like, what's going on around this time? Do we see new commercials that are coming up because of their connection to the Olympics? Not this year necessarily because we're not having the Olympics, but things like that about timing and stuff that's happening historically around it. Same thing goes for kneeling. Like, what is the historical context of kneeling? Would anyone understand what kneeling means if they didn't understand about Colin Kaepernick doing it the first time around and what it means? And also, would they understand what it means if they didn't do research about what it might mean to people in the service and its connection to the flag? All of these things are part of the context. We can't understand what kneeling means until we understand all the things around the kneeling, right? So just thinking about what other occurrences, events, movements could influence the context of an article, speech, or advertisement. So those are just examples, okay? So the point here is, and we'll talk more and more about this as we go on, every argument, whether it's written, an image, a video, it has an important context. Why is the author writing this piece now? And these are questions you should ask yourself as you're analyzing. Why is this commercial on right now at this moment? What happened in history when this video was made? Why did they use that image? Is there something about that image that works? Did they use a specific spokesperson in that moment because that person was extremely relevant in this moment? I don't know. Like, these are questions that you should be asking yourself. Who is the intended audience? Is this for people in college? Is this for parents? Is this for grandparents? Is it for Republicans or Democrats? Who's the intended audience? And where is this all taking place? Is this in America, in the United States? Is this overseas somewhere? All these different contextual questions kind of play into the way that we analyze a text, okay? Okay, so if you see this ethos, logos, pathos square, the thing around it is the context. So whatever is happening in these strategies, around that is the context that you need to be aware of, okay? So ethos is just credibility. How much do you trust the person, the author, who is writing or producing this image, right? Logos is logic, so that makes sense. Logos is just meaning like the data, the facts, the evidence that they use. You know, somebody uses a statistic. What's the effect of using a statistic? Versus pathos, which is emotions. So what's the difference between someone using a statistic and someone putting up a picture of a really sick dog in the ASPCA commercial? I don't know why I went there, but it's like, I guess that just entered my mind and it's fairly relevant. Why are those two different strategies to convince us of something, right? One is completely logical, one is completely emotional, and yet they both can convince us to change our minds about something, or in this case, to give money to save dogs and cats, right? Really, the thing that you need to understand about this is that in order to write a well-balanced paper or article or essay, you need all three of these things. You need to establish your own credibility as a writer, you need to use logic, and you need to affect the audience emotionally. And what will help you do that is to play on the context, right? So all of these things are involved. And again, this is a brief explanation. If you're confused, that's okay. We're going to keep talking about this for the first month, and you're going to hate it, and you'll know it perfectly, okay? Here it is again, if this helps you. So ethos, different language that you can use to talk about this, like using correct grammar improves your ethos, makes you seem more credible. Being honest, acknowledging that you might be wrong about something. Again, this all just makes you seem more fair, so that improves your credibility. And we'll talk more about credibility in the next class. And then there's pathos, again, which is just emotion. So vivid words, language, tone, emotional narratives, vibrant descriptions, something that gets you empathy, gets people to care about you. And then there's logos, which is data, statistics, proof, theory, literal and historical analogies. These are the things that tend to bore us a little bit, but that are necessary in order to convince someone of something, right? We need those numbers. We need that math, even though we hate reading about it. And this, if it helps, kind of breaks it down in a more familiar way, which is just that Hermione is very much about logos and being logical. Ron tends to act with his emotions, although I guess Harry does too, but that's okay because they're supposed to overlap. And Harry, for some reason, we just believe him. He's just credible. We always believe Harry. He's established himself as a believable person. And so if you combine all of these elements, which we do in Harry Potter, you get kind of this like perfect amalgamation of persuasion, I guess, is the way that you could put it. Okay. 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 So that's it. I'm sorry this took so long, but it'll cut down our time when we actually meet in Microsoft Teams. So I kind of did you a favor. You can pause this, watch it at your will, as much as you can take of me talking. I apologize for that. So just remember to write that email with that information. Think about bad teachers and good teachers and what makes them that way. And I'm excited to get to see you guys and to get this semester started. I think it's going to be great. I'm really excited to read Angela Davis with you guys and to get your insights. I think we're going to do some good work. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to me at my Gmail account for now. Hopefully, I'll get a more official account coming up. But I will let you know before class on Thursday. Okay, so we'll talk soon. Have a good couple days before we get started.